Good day, everyone. It all began with me, David, and the end of my marriage. Slowly, my wife and I became strangers sharing the same home. Each of us trapped in our own silent suffering. There were no more sweet words or gentle touches. We simply went through the motions, like actors reciting lines from a script that had lost its meaning long ago. The divorce didn't come with dramatic confrontations. It unfolded quietly after years of silence and distance. One evening, as we sat in the dim light of our kitchen, my wife looked at me with tearful eyes and said, "David, we can't keep living like this. Our hearts are broken, and our son Michael deserves better." Her words cut deep, and I knew she was right. There was nothing left for us to salvage. I had no idea how much losing her would hurt, but the pain of separation was only the beginning of my journey. After the divorce, it felt as if my entire world had unraveled. Losing my wife wasn't the only loss. It felt like I'd lost my sense of self and stability. Michael, my sweet boy, stared at me with confusion, unable to understand why everything was changing so drastically. I couldn't bear to tell him how lost I felt, or that every day had become a battle with my own despair. In the months that followed, I found myself drifting into a world I never imagined I'd know. I began meeting new people, strangers introduced by old friends, or encountered at social gatherings. Initially, these encounters were just distractions, a way to escape the relentless ache of loneliness. But before I knew it, I was entangled in a dangerous cycle of alcohol and substances, a false sense of control that only deepened my inner chaos. Every night, I found solace among unfamiliar faces in dimly lit bars or underground parties. For a brief moment, as the alcohol took hold, I felt in control, as if I could drown my sorrow. Yet, the euphoria was always temporary. The inevitable crash followed soon enough. I lost my job, drained my bank account, and could no longer meet the responsibilities that had once defined me. One particularly painful night, after a series of devastating setbacks, I reached my breaking point. I had just received another eviction notice. The bills had piled up until my bank account was overdrawn, and my small apartment echoed with the emptiness of my shattered dreams. Michael was staying with my estranged family that week, leaving me utterly alone in a place that only reminded me of everything I'd lost. I stared at the remnants of a once happy life, the faded photograph of Michael, his childhood toys scattered across the room, and felt an overwhelming emptiness. In that moment of despair, I saw the old worn-out sweater I used to cherish, a reminder of better times, and I felt I had nothing left to lose. I reached for a nearly empty bottle of whiskey on the table, poured myself a generous glass, and drank deeply. The burning liquid slid down my throat, a temporary reprieve from the pain, but it did nothing to fill the void inside me. Soon after, I grabbed a small bag of pills someone had given me, desperate to numb the agony. I swallowed one, then another, surrendering to the dark promise of oblivion. The TV flickered in the background, its colors and sounds blending into a blur as my senses dimmed. My heart pounded in my chest, and my limbs grew heavy. As the world around me dissolved into darkness, I lost all sense of time and place. When I next opened my eyes, I was no longer in my shabby apartment. I found myself in a desolate, nightmarish landscape. The air was heavy and thick with the smell of sulfur, and there were no vibrant colors, only endless shades of gray and black. In the distance, faint, flickering flames cast eerie shadows, and the atmosphere was one of despair. I called out, "Where am I?" But my voice was swallowed by the oppressive silence. As I stumbled through this unfamiliar land, I heard low, mournful moans. I turned and saw figures dragging themselves through the mud, their forms distorted, their faces etched with unending agony. These were people, but not as I knew them. Only twisted reflections of the souls who had strayed from their path. They moved as if each step was a punishment, their suffering a heavy price for their earthly deeds. In my confusion and terror, I continued to walk, my mind clouded by regret and shame. Soon, I saw more figures, each one representing the broken, desperate souls of those who had lost their way. Some were familiar, faces of influential men and women I had seen on television, celebrated personalities now trapped in a realm of despair. I soon realized that none of us were there by accident. We were all here, paying a price for our transgressions, for the times we had betrayed our faith, our loved ones, and even ourselves. As I moved deeper into this tormenting place, every step felt heavier than the last. The haunting cries of the suffering souls echoed in the darkness. It was then that I heard a voice behind me, soft, yet full of sorrow and understanding. "You too have lost your way," it said. I turned quickly, startled, and saw a man standing there. He was tall, with a weathered face, deep scars marking his features, and his body draped in tattered dark rags. His eyes, intense and piercing, seemed to look right through me. "Who are you?" I asked, fear trembling in my voice. "I'm a lost soul, just like you," he replied, his tone carrying both resignation and empathy. "I, too, have walked the path of betrayal, betraying my faith, my loved ones, and myself. None of us are truly innocent. We let pride and selfishness blind us, and now we're here, facing the consequences of our actions." His words hit me hard. I stuttered. I don't belong here. I never meant to hurt anyone, but I lost my way." The man gave a bitter laugh, void of any true mirth. "Everyone says that. Everyone clings to the hope that they're deserving of another chance. But the truth is, none of us have truly repented. We have ignored the signs, and now we are paying the price." His voice resonated with a sorrow that matched my own inner torment. Overwhelmed by regret and despair, I sank to my knees. In that moment, as I wept for my lost life and shattered dreams, a miraculous change began to take place. A small, flickering light emerged in the distance, growing steadily brighter until it enveloped the dark surroundings. The oppressive terror began to recede, replaced by a profound warmth that touched the very core of my being. I looked up, and through the luminous glow, I saw him, Jesus. He stood before me, radiating compassion and strength. There was no harsh judgment in his gaze, only a deep, abiding love that seemed to mend the fractures in my soul. He did not speak immediately. His presence alone was enough to begin healing the wounds of my broken heart. After a long, silent moment, Jesus spoke softly. "David, true repentance is born from recognizing one's mistakes. You have been lost, but you can still be found. It is never too late to return to the light." Tears streamed down my face as I knelt in humble surrender. "I've failed so many times," I whispered, "and I don't deserve forgiveness." Jesus smiled gently, a smile that spoke of endless grace. "None of us deserve it on our own, for forgiveness is a gift of love and mercy. It is given to those who are willing to acknowledge their mistakes and seek a better path. Embrace this moment, for it is the beginning of your redemption." The radiant light intensified, and suddenly, the hellish landscape melted away. I found myself standing in a beautiful garden bathed in soft, golden light. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the gentle sound of flowing water calmed my frayed nerves. Jesus walked beside me, guiding me toward a magnificent, ancient Bible that shone with a divine glow, a symbol of hope and renewal. In that serene garden, I felt a transformation stirring within me. I realized that my life, once marked by sorrow and self-destruction, was now being given a new beginning through God's unfailing grace. Jesus continued, Your journey has not been without pain, but each step has led you closer to redemption. Every moment of despair was a step toward finding your true self. When I finally opened my eyes, I was back in my apartment. The remnants of my old life, a nearly empty bottle of whiskey, scattered pills, reminded me of the darkness I had nearly embraced. Trembling, I stood up, determined to rebuild what I had almost lost forever. I reached out for help and soon found a detox center where I began the long, arduous process of recovery. The road was not easy. There were moments of doubt, and the shadows of my past occasionally crept back into my thoughts. Yet, with every passing day, I rediscovered the strength and resilience that had been buried beneath layers of pain. I reconnected with Michael, striving to regain his trust and love, even as I continued to mend my own shattered soul. It was a journey of forgiveness, not just from God, but also forgiveness for myself. Slowly but surely, I began to rebuild my life on a foundation of faith, hope, and love. I immersed myself in prayer and scripture, seeking guidance from the one who had given me a second chance. My days were filled with moments of quiet reflection, where I would pause and feel the gentle reminder that I was never truly alone. Even during my darkest hours, the memory of that radiant light and the compassionate gaze of Jesus kept me moving forward. Today, I stand as a testament to God's boundless mercy and grace. A man who once teetered on the brink of self-destruction, now transformed by the power of forgiveness and love. My story is not one of perfection, but one of redemption. I have learned that no matter how far one may stray, the path back to God is always open. I am no longer defined by the mistakes of my past, but by the hope and promise of a brighter future. To anyone listening who may feel lost, know this: it is never too late to seek forgiveness and begin anew. I speak from experience when I say that even in our darkest moments, God's light is waiting to guide us back. Hold on to hope, lean on your faith, and allow the healing grace of God to restore your life. My journey was fraught with pain and regret, but through repentance and the unconditional love of Jesus, I found my way back to a life of purpose. Let my story remind you that no matter the depth of despair, redemption is always possible. Each day is a new chance to rise from the ashes, to embrace the love that surrounds you, and to find solace in the knowledge that God is always with you. He is our strength when we are weak, our guiding light when the path is unclear, and our refuge in times of trouble. With unwavering faith and a heart reborn, I now walk a path of healing and hope, a path illuminated by God's eternal love. I urge you, if you feel lost or overwhelmed by your struggles, do not hesitate to reach out for help. Embrace the possibility of change, trust in the promise of forgiveness, and allow God's grace to transform your life, just as it transformed mine. Thank you for listening, and may you find peace, healing, and endless hope in the light of His love. God bless.